Dorit Kemsley from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills is currently facing foreclosure on a $6.5 million mansion because she apparently has not made a mortgage payment since September 2025. And this after years of lawsuits, tax debt, a gambling husband, and a credit card that got declined in front of the entire RHOBH cast at a boutique in the Hamptons. So we are going to go ahead and break it all down. The full story from the very beginning. I want to establish something important. I called this video the deserved downfall of Dorit Kemsley, not because I have no sympathy for a woman going through a hard time, because some of what she has been through has genuinely been traumatic. But because there is a difference between a person who falls on hard times despite doing everything right and a person who spent years performing wealth, deflecting accountability, insulting the audience's intelligence with one excuse after another, and continuing to spend money she clearly did not have while owing everyone from the IRS to her own hairdresser. Dorit Kemsley is very much in the second category, and the chickens, honey, have fully come home to roost. Let's start with the man she married, because you cannot understand Dorit's financial situation without understanding who PK Kemsley is and what he brought into that marriage. PK Kemsley, whose full name is Paul Kemsley, is a British businessman who had a £500 million property empire in the United Kingdom before the 2008 financial crash took everything. He made a series of large bets that troubled American bank Lehman Brothers would recover in September 2008. Less than a year later, legal action came, and he was liable for a margin call of £2 million. His entire property portfolio collapsed. He described it himself, saying it was a financial tsunami and that the UK was not going to give him a second chance. So he came to America, the land of comebacks, and reinvented himself as a talent manager, most famously for singer Boy George. But here is what Dorit knew, and what she still chose to walk into. When PK met her in New York in 2011, he was, in his own words, a little better off than broke. He filed for bankruptcy in the UK in 2012, with debts estimated to be as large as $50 million. He then filed for bankruptcy again, twice in 2 years. And in 2013, the Bellagio Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, of all places, sued him for a gambling debt of $3.6 million that he had racked up in 2009. He had made 5 payments to the Bellagio totaling $850,000 between 2010 and 2011, and then just stopped. The Bellagio took him to court. They settled the case, with PK agreeing to make payments through 2018. He finally paid off that debt entirely in January 2022. So for the first several years of their marriage, they were still paying off his casino debt from years before they even met. Dorit and PK got married in 2015, and here's the detail that is crucial for everything that comes after. They did not sign a prenuptial agreement. Dorit has addressed this directly on the show, and she explained it by saying that when they married, PK was broke. There was nothing to protect. She had no significant assets of her own to protect, and he had nothing of substance to bring in. So they went into that marriage without any legal financial separation whatsoever, which means that everything PK owed was now their shared problem, and everything they accumulated together was jointly liable. That is a decision that has haunted Dorit for the entire decade of that marriage, and continues to haunt her right now in 2026 as lenders file default notices against her home. Now let's talk about when this all became a public performance. Dorit joined the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills in Season 7 in 2016. She was brought in by Lisa Vanderpump as a friend, and from the very first episode, she leaned into a persona of extraordinary fashion, designer labels, head-to-toe extravagance, and a level of taste that she presented as effortless. Her Season 8 tagline was, and I quote in spirit, "I believe in excess of everything except moderation." And that is exactly how she lived on camera. Custom outfits that cost thousands of dollars per look. A Beverly Hills lifestyle that she presented as the natural backdrop of her existence. She launched a swimwear line called Beverly Beach in 2017, and she was photographed and branded and interviewed as a woman who had arrived. But the cracks started showing almost immediately. In August 2018, a man named Ryan Horn, who had been Dorit's business partner in Beverly Beach, sued her. According to court documents obtained by TMZ, Horn alleged that he had loaned the couple $205,000 in seed money to start the swimwear line and was never paid back. Dorit countersued, claiming that Horn was nothing more than a vendor and was never promised anything. The judge sent them to mediation in January 2019. And then there was Nikos Kurzis, who alleged that PK defaulted on a $1.2 million loan back in 2011 with a repayment deadline of 2013. By 2019, PK had only paid Kurzis $250,000 of what had become, with interest and fees, over $1.2 million owed. A judge had to order PK to appear at a hearing and disclose all of his finances to the court. At one point, the couple's bank account was frozen. Dorit went on camera and said, with full confidence, "Everything is perfect. There is no money issue." She said that in October 2019. And then fellow RHOBH, Camille Grammer, showed up on camera in Season 9 and looked Dorit in the face and said that PK owed a lot of money to someone very close to me. She did not name names. She did not have to. The Season 9 table knew exactly what she was talking about because by then the lawsuits were public record. The bank account freeze was public record. The Bellagio judgment was public record. And yet Dorit looked at the cameras and the audience and said there was no money issue. That tells you everything you need to know about her relationship with financial transparency. And it is important to pause here and acknowledge something, because this is where both things can be true. I have no doubt that a lot of the financial chaos in Dorit's life was generated by PK, not by her. She has said publicly that from before they were even married, PK handled all of the finances. Every bill, every mortgage payment, every investment decision. She did not have her own understanding of what they owed, what they owned, or what was current on any of their obligations. She was, in her own words, kept in the dark. And for a woman who grew up with a vision of building her own career and her own brand, she handed the keys of her financial life to a man who had already bankrupted himself twice by the time they stood at the altar. That is a painful truth that Dorit is now reckoning with in real time on national television. But at the same time, Dorit was not some passive bystander to the lifestyle they were living. She was a willing and enthusiastic participant in every expensive outfit, every designer accessory, every performance of wealth on that show. She chose a persona built entirely on the appearance of having more money than perhaps they actually had. She launched businesses. She extended herself publicly as a brand. And when people questioned the finances, she shut them down rather than engaging honestly. The accountability she is now being asked to take is not just for PK's decisions. It is for years of performance over substance. Let's talk about what was happening in the years leading up to the separation, because this is important context. In 2021, Dorit and PK owed over $1.3 million in unpaid federal taxes, according to documents obtained by the U.S. Sun. That is a separate and confirmed federal tax lien. And in November 2023, the U.S. Sun also reported that PK and Dorit had over $1 million in tax debt to the California IRS. So the federal debt and the California state debt together paint a picture of a family that was significantly behind on its tax obligations for years. And this was happening while Dorit was on television presenting herself as a fashion mogul and a Beverly Hills icon. Also in 2021, something happened to Dorit that was genuinely horrifying, and I want to acknowledge it fully. On October 27, 2021, 3 armed men broke into the Kemsley home in Encino by smashing through a sliding glass door to the children's classroom. Dorit was alone in the house. PK was in London. Her children, Jagger and Phoenix, were asleep. 2 of the intruders entered Dorit's bedroom and woke her up, standing at the foot of her bed. According to Dorit's own account on the Season 12 premiere, one of the men held a gun to her head. She begged them.
So I get out of my bed. And that's when I saw not a little person, but a big person. When he saw me, he panicked and he charged at me, grabbed me, put me down. Get down to the ground. I'm gonna kill you.
They ransacked the home for 20 minutes and left with approximately $1 million in jewelry, handbags, and watches. No arrests were made as of the Season 12 premiere in May 2022. Dorit described developing genuine PTSD from that event, and she went to therapy and openly discussed the trauma on camera over multiple seasons. That event was traumatic. Full stop. No one deserves to go through something like that, and I will never use that robbery as a punchline or a judgment. But I will note that in the aftermath, Dorit remained in that same house. that $6.475 million Encino mansion that they had purchased in August 2019. The same house that they had listed for $9.5 million in 2020 received no serious buyers and eventually took off the market. That house, with 6 bedrooms and 7 bathrooms and a 9,000 square foot footprint, was financed using a startling number of unconventional lenders when it was purchased. Not a traditional bank, multiple private lenders, which is itself a signal that the conventional financing market was not available to them in the way it would be for a couple with clean financial histories. And then Dorit went on Season 12, Season 13, Season 14, and Season 15 of RHOBH, continuing to dress in designer clothing, continuing to perform the lifestyle, continuing to be Dorit Kemsley, Beverly Hills fashion icon. While in the background, the tax liens were accumulating, the lenders were getting restless, and the marriage was quietly crumbling. Let's talk about how the marriage ended, because that timeline matters. In May 2024, Dorit and PK released a joint statement saying they were separating to take some time apart and reevaluate the relationship. They framed it as mutual, careful, and focused on their children. But reporting at the time indicated that PK had moved into a hotel in Beverly Hills, and sources told outlets that Dorit had ended it, that she had essentially fallen out of love with him, and that they had been living separate lives for months before the announcement. There was a Season 14 trailer moment where Dorit said, referencing her marriage, "Not this week," matching a man who said he was not married this week. It was devastating and real. Then, in April 2025, Dorit officially filed for divorce from PK, citing irreconcilable differences and seeking sole legal and physical custody of their 2 children. And here's the detail that made it go from a quiet legal filing to a very public conversation. Photos emerged the same day of PK kissing a woman named Shauna Wall, who had appeared on CBS's The Amazing Race. Many people immediately noted that Shauna Wall looked strikingly similar to Dorit. Dorit has said publicly that seeing those photos was the moment she knew it was over. The second I saw that, I was like, okay, we're done. PK is now reportedly dating a creative executive named Tatiana Karkalava, who he met through his longtime client, Boy George. Now let's get into the financial situation that exists as of right now in 2026, because this is where we are. After Dorit filed for divorce in April 2025, she admitted on RHOBH Season 15 that PK had handled all the finances throughout the entire marriage, dating back to before they were even officially married. She was essentially discovering what she actually owed and owned for the first time as a nearly 50-year-old woman going through a divorce. She found out the house was in pre-foreclosure a few weeks before the public found out. She described being in the unknown about their entire financial picture. She also said on camera that she expected PK to keep paying the mortgage even after their separation, and that he was currently paying it at the time of filming. But here is what the court documents say actually happened after that. In September 2025, payments stopped. According to documents obtained by Radar Online and reported widely in March 2026, Dorit's Encino mansion is now facing foreclosure for a second time. 2 lenders, Tanka LLC and Private Money Solutions, filed a default notice on January 21, 2026. Those 2 lenders loaned $600,000 and $150,000 respectively, and the total outstanding with interest is $842,376. And there is a separate and potentially even larger problem. A third lender, Prime Recon LLC, filed a default notice in December 2025, claiming it is owed a mortgage of $5,196,750 plus $294,321 in missed payments and penalties from April to December of 2025. That is potentially over $5.5 million owed to a single lender. Whether that particular debt has been resolved is unclear from the public record, so let's do the math on what Dorit is currently staring at. At minimum, $842,376 in defaulted secondary loan debt with California foreclosure specialists now engaged to recover it. Potentially $5.5 million in primary mortgage default, all on a house that is in her name. Because when PK bought the mansion in 2019, it went in Dorit's name, which means she is the legal responsible party. She said it herself on camera. The house is in my name, so if PK stops paying for something or doesn't make payments, it's me that suffers the consequences. Chile. And while all of this is unfolding in the background, what is happening on camera on season 15 of RHOBH? Dorit's credit card is getting declined at a boutique in the Hamptons. She blamed it on a fraud alert, but the audience saw what they saw, and then separately, her Beverly Hills hairdresser, Chris Dillon, went on social media and posted receipts of text messages showing that Dorit owed him a four-figure amount for styling her hair for shoots and appearances, including an LA Lakers game. He eventually posted to TikTok that after months of begging, he had finally been paid in full. Months of begging. A hairdresser had to publicly call out Dorit Kemsley for an unpaid bill before he got his money. Make that make sense? And still, in a recent episode, Dorit goes into a Hamptons boutique and spends over $4,000 on clothes in a single sitting, with the first card declined, and the audience watching her in real time was not having it. People went to social media and said exactly what they were thinking. And you know what? Those are not unfair things to say. When your lender files a default notice and California foreclosure specialists are being brought in, and you are on television shopping $4,000 of boutique clothing that same season, the optics are not great. Period. Dorit appeared on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen on March 19, 2026, and Andy asked her directly about the unpaid mortgage reports. Her response was that she had learned about the foreclosure situation a few weeks before the public did, that it was something PK was in charge of. She is navigating it. She did not deny it. She did not give a confident, everything is perfect speech like she gave in 2019. And that shift is notable. 7 years ago, Dorit could look into a camera and deny financial reality with complete confidence. Today, she cannot. Because the documents are too public, the debt is too specific, and the audience has too much information to be gaslit the way they once were. Here is the broader point I want to make, and this is what I want the tea sippers to really think about. Dorit Kemsley came onto RHOBH and built an entire identity on wealth, taste, and aspiration. She said her tagline was that she believed in excess. She performed excess. She dressed in excess. She spent in excess. And the show rewarded that persona with seasons, with a platform, with an audience. But the persona was built on a foundation that was financially shaky from the very beginning. The man she married came in with $50 million in bankruptcy debt and a Bellagio gambling judgment. They did not sign a prenup. They financed a $6.5 million mansion through unconventional private lenders. They accumulated over $1 million in federal and state tax debt. They had their bank accounts frozen. They were sued by business partners, creditors, and a private duty nurse. And through all of it, the show aired and Dorit kept saying, there is no money issue. Now the show is still airing and Dorit can no longer say that because the money issues are in the court documents. The money issues are in the default notices. The money issues are in the hairdresser's TikTok videos. The money issues are on her face when Andy Cohen asks her the hard questions on WWHL, and she has to actually sit with the truth instead of deflecting it. Like I always say, you can perform your way into a reality TV lifestyle, but you cannot perform your way out of a mortgage default. The foreclosure does not care about your Season 8 tagline. The lenders do not care that you wear designer. And the audience, honey, has been watching closely enough that they noticed when the card got declined. That tells you everything you need to know about where Dorit Kemsley is right now and how she got there.